Welcome you to the Town Planning and Zoning meeting for Town of Newington on July 28th, 2021. And if everybody could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, if we could do a roll call, Noreen, if you could do the roll call, I'd appreciate it.
Early. Chairman Payne,
Here,
Commissioner Claffey, Commissioner Fox, Commissioner Havens,
Here.
Commissioner Linares.
Fox is here. I had to unmute.
Okay. Commissioner Linares. Commissioner Sobieski.
Yeah.
Commissioner Woods. Commissioner Woods. Commissioner Braverman.
Here.
Commissioner Gill.
Here.
And Commissioner Haggerty.
Here.
Okay.
hey, thank you very much, Noreen. I'm going to have Commissioner Haggerty sit for Commissioner Claffey. And could I have Commissioner Gill sit for Commissioner Linares? And I will have Commissioner Braverman sit for Commissioner Woods.
Okay.
Okay, next thing on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. So I'll go to the town planner, and I think the agenda was modified briefly, and she can explain to us what that's all about.
The agenda was not modified. What we modified was what was included in your packet, Mr. Chairman. So inadvertently, by an error, the staff sent out the printed version of the packet and did not include the map and the memo for Leslie Pool application. So that was subsequently included and sent over.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Renata, for that clarification. I appreciate it. Next thing on the agenda, if there's no objection, is public participation. If there's somebody that would like to have a comment or a question from the public that's not listed on the agenda, please raise your hand in the Zoom. And looks like we have two people. I'll go to Rose Lyons first.
She's muted.
It's *6 on your phone.
Hi, sorry about that. I thought I had unmuted myself. Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. Just wondering who to contact regarding signs being put up on the center green, whether that's town property or if it's the Department of Transportation's right of way. And also, I noticed signs being put up on the corner of Hartford Avenue and Main Street regarding unmask our children. I don't go up on the Turnpike too often either, but I've noticed more signs up there and more of those big banners, or not banners, they're flags, I guess, that I think there's even one in the center green that says Barber. I don't know if those are being allowed now or not, but between the bulk waste being put to the curb and the signs popping up all over the place, not for businesses in town, but for agendas, I'm just wondering if there's someone in our town to talk to, or someone in our town is a liaison with DOT. Just wondering if you can give me some information as to who I can contact about that.
Certainly, Ms. Lyons. Eric Kinkley would be our enforcement agent. So if you have a question or concern about some signs, you can direct those to Eric. And we also have the authority, I believe, to take any signs down in the DOT right away if they're in hindrance. So, but direct everything to Mr. Hinckley, and I'm sure he'll be able to help you. Next person in the public would be, that's it. Is there anybody else from the public wishing to speak? There was a Janet. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to remarks by commissioners. Is there any commissioners that have any remarks?
Yep, Commissioner Fox here.
Yes, Commissioner Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Coincidentally, I had the same comments about signs as Rose just made. And so I called Eric, and he reminded me that at the beginning of the pandemic, January 2020, I believe it was, we spoke about the signs, the wavy signs and the temporary signs, and decided that during the pandemic, we would take it easy and not do anything about it. And it seems as if, the pandemic is easing up. And although the variant is making trouble, and me and Newington aren't doing too well with it. But I don't know. I think maybe it's time to gently put our foot back down and maybe give out some warnings and advise people with these, should I say, illegal signs should do something about it. As far as the sidewalk seating and everything, I think that should continue in perpetuity, So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fox. Commissioner Sobieski?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also have seen signs not only there but down along Cedar Street for military recruitment. The one at the corner of Hartford Avenue in Maine has got unmasked our kids. Those have nothing to do with the businesses. And I think you need to make a fine distinction between business signs and wind sales versus non-business signs. And I think what's happened is people just see one sign go up and it's like a magnet. Other signs appear all of a sudden. Just my opinion, but I've seen quite a few of them up there and quite a few things tacked on telephone poles too. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sobieski. Yeah, I think Mr. Hinckley can handle that. If they're not business-related signs, I agree with you, Commissioner Sobieski. They should be, especially if they're in the right of way and they're not business-related, they should be taken down. Our enforcement agent has the authority to do that. Thank you very much. Okay, the next thing on our agenda is a public hearing. I would ask Commissioner Haggerty.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner
I'm sorry,
Fox.
may I be heard? I just got a text from Janet Chernikoff over at Deming Farm. She wanted to say something, but evidently, none of us heard her, so.
Okay, well,
She's not
we
sure
can,
how she can be heard.
before we proceed, we'll go back to public participation and we'll allow her to speak. Janet, if you're there, you can.
Hi, Dominic, can you
Yes,
hear me? Oh,
yes,
Hi.
we can.
I thank you. I tried to do that before, but I guess I was constantly muted. So I'll make this short. I'm representing homeowners of Newington Ridge Preserve and asking the TPZ to deny any request from our developer to modify the approved plans on file in relation to the required stone accents on the exterior front elevation only. Currently, there are 11 completed homes, all with stone accents on the exterior front elevation. The 12th home, which is under construction, is sided, but has no stone accents on the front elevation. Eric Hinckley verified that the milers show there are to be stone accents on the exterior front elevation and is notifying the developer of that. He is also advising him of the process needed to modify the existing plan. When we purchased our newly built home, stone accents on the exterior front elevation were included in the standard specification sheets given to us by the builder. They are also included via a drawing in the public offering statement, which is given to each new property owner as recently as this June. In addition, the The stone accents add value to our homes, and although there are different models, the stonework on all the homes make our community look more cohesive. It also adds a more expensive feel to the house, which in turn adds value to our overall community. The home under construction is the one closest to our entranceway on the left and can be seen from Deming Street. This home does not represent the look we were promised when we purchased our newly constructed homes, nor what we want the people to see as a first impression of our community. Therefore, our hope is that you take this into serious consideration when you receive the modification request from our developer to remove the requirement for stone accents on the exterior front elevation. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we'll go back to remarks by commissioners. Is there any further remarks by commissioners? Hearing none, we're going to go to our public hearing. And I would ask if Commissioner Haggerty, do you have the procedures for our public hearing, buddies? Or if you don't,
I don't have them in front of me.
okay.
I don't know.
Commissioner Havens, do you have the procedures for our public hearing?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Mr.
Procedure for
Chairman,
public hearings.
Yeah.
you don't have a public hearing on this evening.
Says public. Oh, okay. Thank you, James. You're
You
right.
will.
All right. I apologize, commissioners. I thought there was a public hearing. There is no public hearing, so we don't need the procedures for the public hearing. We have approval of minutes. We have TPZ minutes for July 14th, 2021. Is there a,
Commissioner Sobieski, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
thank you. We have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Sobieski to approve the July 14th, 2021 meeting minutes. Do I hear a second?
Second from Fox.
Seconded by Commissioner Fox. Is there any corrections? Anything that has to be corrected? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to approve the minutes of July 14th. Next thing on our agenda is new business. We have a request to release a road maintenance bond for Packard's Way subdivision petition 69-06 from Donna DeMuro. I'll turn it over to our town planner, Renata, to give us a briefing on this.
And I will promptly turn this over to Eric Hinckley, who is the person that had worked on this.
Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners. This performance bond, this maintenance bond was let me start over. The subdivision was approved under petition 6906 a number of years ago. The street was accepted by the town October 22nd, 2019. On November 4th, 2019, the performance bond was released and converted to the maintenance bond of the $2,800 that was left. To date, there have been no road maintenance issues or nothing that needs to be resolved. And the town engineer, an email from the town engineer, agrees that he has no issue in releasing the bond at this time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hinckley, for that report. Is there any questions from the commissioners? So there's $2,850 that needs to be returned. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Is there any comments from commissioners? Pretty simple item. Our engineering has looked at this. I would suggest that we move this to old business for action.
Sobieski, make a motion to move to old business.
Thank you, Commissioner Sobieski. Commissioner Sobieski is making a motion to move this to old business for action. Do I hear a second?
Second, Commissioner Havens.
Seconded by Commissioner Havens. Thank you. Any questions, comments? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Opposed. Motion carries to move this to old business for action. Next thing on our agenda is petition 34-21. Section 3.231B, an accessory outside use to allow a tent event for hot tub sales at 3221 Berlin Turnpike. Applicant Leslie Pool and Spa, contact Diane Campbell, owner Sullivan Hayes Northeast. Is the applicant available? State your name and address for the record and give us a brief explanation of what you'd like to do.
My name is Diane Campbell, and I reside at 228 William Street in West Haven, Connecticut, 06516. I am the Sales and Operations Manager for Leslie Pool and Spa. We would like to host a tent event to display the model hot tubs that we are selling, offering at a sales price. We've had great success throughout the state of Connecticut. This would be our second event, and we would like to bring it to our store on the Berlin Turnpike in Newington. We just have 6 display tubs that would sit under a 20 by 30 foot tent. There would be no electricity whatsoever. These are just model hot tubs to show the customers that are interested, which would mostly be our store customers, taking them inside to perform the sales and the contract paperwork that would be included with the purchase. They would like to put up a couple of road signs, feather flags, which could be eliminated without any problem if we had to do that. There'd be no music. There would be potentially no other traffic other than what would be conducted from our store business. So we would like to be granted permission to do so.
Very good. Thank you very much for that report. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
I'll ask our town planner, let's see if she has any anything to follow up on that.
No, this is explained fairly well. The one comment that we had looked at was when we reviewed this proposed temporary installation of a tent is within the required front yard. However, this is on an existing parking, which is also not permitted. So in lieu of that, occupying parking with cars or occupying parking with something else that is likewise temporary use, we felt did not violate zoning regulations. And I believe, Eric, that is the only thing that we have, unless I'm forgetting something.
No, that is correct, Renata. The 35-foot setback is actually the face of the building is about 36 feet. So anywhere in that front parking lot where there's existing parking is actually within the 35-foot yard setback. So.
Thank you, Renata, and thank you, Eric. Any questions from the commissioners? Any concerns?
Yeah.
Questions? Commissioner Fox, you have the floor.
Yeah, I'm looking at the agenda here, and isn't this type of issue usually a public hearing?
I don't believe so, but I'll have Renata answer that.
I don't believe so. It is an accessory outside use, and if you give me a second, I'll just double check that section. Hold on a sec.
It's no big deal. I mean, there's nothing. But
No, that's okay. Let's just verify, just in case. I don't mind doing that.
Yeah.
Give me just a moment.
my apologies for taking up time.
Yeah, I don't have my regs in front of me.
I do not see in this section that is a requirement. If that is a precedent practice by the commission, then that is certainly something that I was not aware of. But accessory buildings and uses in the zoning district, it talks about criteria and it doesn't mention a need for special permit.
If I recall, just a couple months ago, you guys did the same thing for Express Kitchen for the granite display. There was no public hearing.
Yep.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. I just thought we did this by public hearing. So that tells me that anytime this comes up, we don't have to bother the public hearing, and it makes it a lot easier for the applicant. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Fox. Any other questions or comments? I think this is pretty straightforward. It's something small that we can do for the business to help them. And that's our job. So if there's no other questions or comments, Commissioner Sobieski, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I think, and I don't want to make a big deal about this, but I think that the state right away goes pretty close to the front of that building.
It does. It covers the whole area, but it's all
Oh,
parking right now.
All right.
Okay.
I was concerned.
All righty. If there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to move petition 34-21 to old business for action.
So moved.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Fox. Do I have a second?
Second.
Sobieski.
Seconded by Commissioner Braverman. And is there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously to move petition 34-21 to old business for action. So we're at old business right now. And we have petition 69-09. I'm sorry, 69-06. I'll entertain a motion to approve the return of $2,850 of the road maintenance bond of Packard Way back to Donna DeMoro.
So moved.
Second by Sobieski.
Moved by Commissioner Fox and seconded by Commissioner Sobieski. Any questions? Reason for the approval, the term of the one-year maintenance bond expired on November 4th, 2020, and no maintenance issues have arisen that need to be resolved. So we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. If there's no questions, I'll entertain a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously to return the funds back to Donna DeMoro. Okay, our next petition in old business would be petition 34-21. And see if there's a motion for, if I could have Commissioner Havens, if you could read that motion, I'd appreciate it.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. Petition 34-21 for an accessory outside use to allow a tent sale under section 3.23.1.b at 3221 Berlin Turnpike. Applicant Leslie Pool and Spa, contact Diane Campbell, owner Sullivan Hayes Northeast. Approved. Move to approve the tent at 3221 Berlin Turnpike between August 4th and 18th, 2021. Reason for the approval? This is a temporary tent sale that meets the requirements of the regulation.
Second.
Thank you very much. We have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Havens, and I have a second from Commissioner Fox. Is there any questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Very good. Good luck, Diane Campbell. And let's see, that's it for old business. Petitions for public hearing scheduling.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I have one petition that was received in our office after we issued the packet and the agenda, and it is to convert what is currently medical marijuana dispensary facility on Berlin Turnpike. And forgive me, I don't remember the actual address, but they would like to convert their operation into hybrid, which essentially mean that they are asking for special permit to add the retail operation to their existing medical marijuana dispensary.
okay, very good. Thank you, Renata. Any questions from the commissioners? Okay, now we'll head into the town planner's report.
I believe she's muted.
I did this whole report already. Um, So at any rate, I need to make sure in the future that, James, you got the most up-to-date future agenda, because I think what's displayed comes out of the packet and we revise that on the day of the meeting. However, as you can see, we have, and as you know, because I just told you, we received that new application for Berlin Turnpike location, and I submitted an application for the zoning regulation amendment to change how we treat the pricing on the signage in business and business TC zones at gas stations. This application, this regulation amendment came essentially at a request of one of the property owners, but then we looked at these two districts and decided it was probably a pertinent thing to do. The application requires a CROG review, which sets it out to the second meeting in August. I have tentatively scheduled it for a hearing for first meeting in September, when I'm back in person, if we have in-person meetings. So that's all that I have to report on the future agenda area. The second, does anyone have questions actually before I move? Okay, so the second thing I wanted to talk to you is, James, if you can display my PowerPoint, I'd appreciate it real quick. Okay, let's do this first. So this is a report of, I haven't really talked to you lately about what we as a department are working on. So we put together a little list of all the assignments and projects and things that we are working on, just to kind of give you a little bit of an update on where we are with various things. So as I just had mentioned, we had proposed the regulation amendment for the gas station pricing signs. I am working on the adult use cannabis regulation. I am not as expeditious with it as I wish to be, but that's because honestly, there is a lot of questions with regards to that legislation that keeps on getting posted by other planners. And I'm trying to get as much educated on what people's opinions on this are. There are questions on this bill surrounding all kinds of things, even the most fundamental provision that sets how many of facilities you are to have per population. We're discussing whether perhaps Newington would be 2 or just one. So there is all kinds of conversations. I am working on it and I will eventually submit this to you. I'm also, after we finished looking at the business zone use regulations, I started looking at the BBT business zone regulation. One of the things that I'm struggling with this particular draft is I'm trying to see whether or not it would be smart to introduce a residential in the zoning district. So that's definitely something that I'm kind of struggling myself with. Should we even propose it, and then to which extent? And obviously, once I have some kind of a document of any sort, I'll bring it to you for a full discussion on that. Outdoor dining for restaurants, we had put in a provision in our regulations that actually delegates from you to me the authority to issue approvals for this. We have issued several. This summer, that provision ends in December. However, the state has introduced this new law. So now I think we need to rethink how we treat restaurants to begin with, because the outdoor dining is going to be permitted use as a right and perhaps only manageable by commission through site plan. I'm sorry. Newington Junction regulations, essentially that, not even regulation, Newington Junction write-up, like working document, is on hold to be presented to you until we start having in-person meetings. A lot of people expressed interest in that. My understanding is that the commission felt that that was appropriate. So that's just kind of on hold for now. And perhaps the most overwhelming project that we're going to have to start working on together very soon is looking at our regulation and comparing it with the new law that just got passed by the state, and comparing and looking at inconsistencies with our regulations, and then figuring out a way to, address this. So those are all like regulatory things we're working on. We are also looking at so Sustainable City, that project, we are trying to actually find somebody out to help us with that. That is also slow moving and not progressing as well as I hoped it could or would if we had some support. We also are going to, and I'm going to do this in September or October. There is a state program that actually allows property owners, and these are owners of residential homes that are historic on either state registry or national registry, to obtain grants for improvement of their property. So people can actually get some money for siding and window repair and things like that. And I think I am under impression that our property owners are not aware of this program. They don't know the particulars of it. So I am intending to invite somebody from SHPA to and create probably like a Zoom kind of a meeting for property owners of these houses to just be given information. If they choose to use the money may be available under these conditions, and then at least people will know that this thing exists. In addition to that, we're monitoring the situations with the donation bins and, the maintenance of them, and that can be, it seems to be a little bit getting out of hand, so we're keeping an eye on that. I had talked to you about application fees. We have started advertising in Hartford Courant instead of New Britain newspaper, and I am going to wait 3 months to see what is an average price that we pay for an ad, for legal ad for the papers, and then we will come back to you and discuss appropriately. Before it seemed that we were paying more in ad than we were charging in the application. That is not the case now, but you will have these numbers to see, where would you like to go with that. And I also looked, another thing that was on my mind was what type of applications are we actually reviewing? Because one of the things I would like to ensure is that as a town, we keep diverse with what we get and what kind of development goes through our commission. So we looked into that, and I actually compiled a little list. We have had 5, this is since November. We had 5 residential applications, of which we ended up with 4 developments. That includes perhaps a subdivision plus something else. We had 23 various commercial applications, of which we ended up having 15 projects, site plan special permit type of situation. We don't have too many industrial. We only had 1 industrial development that got approved. We had quite a few text amendments and 1 map change. So seeing these numbers put me at ease, because what we're getting is quite diverse. It's all kinds of things, and that's really, in the long run, the best for the town, to have all sorts of developments going on. Aside from that, we had an intern. Actually, our engineering department had an intern who did some very preliminary research for the parking. He checked parking regulations that other towns have, and that's on hold for, if we ever look at parking, we'll have those numbers from him. And we're going to work on, as much as we can on fixing our web page, the town planner's web page, so that we can have a workflow that shows somebody who's applying for a shed, like this is where you go, this is how many days, this is what you should expect. If this happens, this is what needs to happen, like a next step. So we're working on that stuff. So that's the department report. And then James, can you pull up my PowerPoint just for the legislative? And I'm going to be super brief with this.
This is the only one that I have. You didn't send me another one.
No, not this one. All right, you know what? Skip then, because I'll just summarize. I did the presentation and I will send you the copy of the PowerPoint that I prepared. It is essentially, so this second round of legislative update had to do with extension of permits. There is a certain period of time, I don't know if you recall, but when first market was affected by a severe crisis back in 2007, following about 2 years later, the legislature passed a bill that says if your approval was from this date to this date, you get another 5 years to complete your project. So they did something very similar to them again now this time, and has effectively extended the permit duration, not for permits that are issued today, but for permits that are issued within like certain time period previous, from to 14 years plus extension to potentially 19 years. This applies across board to wetlands, subdivisions, special exception, and site plans. So they did that same modification again to certain permits. They also tied up the approval date on the wetlands applications to approval dates of any other applications that are pending by the commissions. And this was with an intent so that a project doesn't have like 7 different expiration dates. You know, an effective date of a fully approved project is the last date granted very likely by the commission site plan, and that's the date that guides the time to complete construction for all the other permits.
Renata, the presentation you're talking about is the same one you gave to conservation the other night, correct?
Yes, yes.
Perfect. Tell me what side you'd like.
Okay, I don't even know where I'm at. All right, so this is the slide that talks about exactly what I said. You know, it ties wetlands approvals to your approvals. So their date, effective date of the approval of wetlands is an effective date of approval of site plans. And in the end, the project gets so many years to complete the project. So if you move on, this is what I was just talking about, the period of extension. So for all the projects that are approved between July 1, 2011 and March 10, 2020 will now be extended to have 14 years to complete. And this applies, so you can just roll through next several slides. This applies to your permits and wetlands permits. Go ahead. And one more. Just move on. Another one. And another one. I would go to the traffic part. Oh, so the conservation, right. So there are several things that talk about incentives for conservation that, you know, in some instances shall be included in the regulations. So when we look at this is one of those things that I said, you know, we will have to compare how our regulations stack up to that, and then we'll consider what and how to do any change that we want. So go ahead, James. And go ahead. With the traffic, you will be now allowed to consider vehicle miles traveled versus level of service process. There is some language about the speeds and how municipality is, you know, okay to moderate speed, which I thought that was always the case. I thought on a town road, the town had the ability to post the speed signs, but apparently that's something that was just added up. They introduce these changes to promote, to some extent at least, developments that are less dependent on vehicles. So they are requiring now that, we have some language in the regulations for the bicycles, for pedestrian access, encouragement of that kind of infrastructure. Move on. And limits on parking, we talked about that previously. So move on to the next one. I had spoken to you about the training as well. So next one. And James did this last time, so I think we're good. So that concludes what I wanted to talk to you about tonight.
Okay, is there any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Sobieski, well, let me go to our Eric Hinckley. He may have some things to add, and then we'll go to questions from commissioners. Eric?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Two things I just wanted to touch on real quick so you guys are aware. I did notify the developer of Newington Ridge this afternoon about the stone veneer, and he emailed me back within a half an hour and said that he would be putting the stone veneer on before he asked for the CO. So it doesn't appear that he will be asking for a modification at this point. That was his statement. So I guess we'll see going forward. And item 2 about the signs, just so you guys are aware, I pick up anywhere between 30 and 70 of the little push-in signs every month. So the ones that aren't for businesses out in the right of way, the We Buy Houses, the Unmask Our Kids, all those get pulled up when I see them and find them. I know the banners are up, they're creeping a bit, and we've had that discussion. So that's all I really have for that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hinckley. I appreciate the fact that we are getting some signage picked up, and I knew that was happening. And I'm sure you'll look into the other things when Ms. Lyons contacts you. Thank you very much. Questions from commissioners. We'll go to Commissioner Sobieski and then Commissioner Gill.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I read the other day that Newington Railroad Station is proceeding. I believe there might have been some funding passed this last legislation. I think we should start looking at that area as soon as possible because we wanted to be ahead of the game to develop that area and see what we want. That to me has a higher priority than Newington Junction, in my opinion, because that station will be generating traffic. It will be generating business in that area. We need to figure out what we're looking for in there. I believe Frank Saida, when he was chairman, had agreed that after Myra Cohen Way, we were going to look at that. All right, because we know a station's coming. It's been approved by DOT, and it's listed on their stops, the railroad stops. Secondly, as far as traffic, the process for approving speed limits on town roads is the town has to request through the town council and the town manager a letter to OSTA requesting a speed limit on a town road. Once the speed limit is approved by OSTA, the town then can put the signs up with legal authority on the bottom. And there's a case, a Superior Court case in Stonington to that effect. So that's how that works. Whereas on a state highway, it's automatically approved by OSTA. As far as the monies for businesses, if I'm not mistaken, and I think Dominic was on at the time, there was money given to various businesses in the center of town to fix up the facade of them in the center. Remember that, Dominic?
Yes, I do.
And I don't know if that came out of this particular grant that Renata's talking about. Or not. I know it's been around for a while because I know the guy that owns Briarwood had applied for it and got money to do the facade of the business. So I know it's been around. I don't think too many people realize or know that it's for older structures that are dated. That's about it. I think that was about 18 or 20 years ago. I could be wrong.
Yeah. I think that might have been a small cities grant, possibly. Not historic, but it was a grant for the small businesses in the center of Newington. I do recall that.
I believe it was the small cities grant, Dominic.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of grants out there. You just got to look for them and see what we are eligible. Excuse me, what we're eligible for. Thank you.
Great point, Commissioner. Thank you. Commissioner Gill?
Yes, I've got a couple items. I'm not sure where they fall, but to Renata, in regards to permits, have we looked into online permitting? Or are we thinking of it at all?
Uh,
I
Can
I
I
just
just get that clarified? Do you mean our permitting through the zoning or just building permits?
No, zoning. Yeah, we already have it for building, right?
So
I think.
we do
Correct.
have a system that issues building permits and zoning signs off on many of those. Whenever there is like a zoning signature that's required on a building permit, that's issued online.
Yes, we can issue zoning permits for most things through the online permitting process now. Like you can apply for the chicken permit, you can apply for temporary signs, sheds, other things that don't require building, you can just get the zoning ones.
Okay.
And the other permits by the commission cannot be issued
Correct.
online.
Okay.
Anything?
The other item that's coming up is EV charging stations. I just saw some programs that are being put out by, I'm really not sure who, but for EV charging stations being paid by a grant or from somewhere else. So who would I talk to with the town in regards to getting that information out?
So I would recommend that you just send me an email and essentially give me like a synopsis of what is it that you're trying to get to. We do have the grant, the consultant company that is supposed to be starting to look for grants for us and also put together some grant proposals for the town. And with the EV stations, we actually had some conversation between Keith and engineering, myself, and public works about like who would be in charge of that. And I think the most logical place was public works to start with. However, all of us work together and speak every day. So you're welcome to send me an email and I'll pass it along and figure out like who should be responding to you.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you. The other one is addresses and addresses on signs. Is there a way that we can get it written into our regs that the address of a building is put on a freestanding sign in front of the building? And also, could we get that written into temporary signs so that we know who these temporary signs belong to? I don't know who to direct that to.
We can look into that. I am not, I think actually it's an interesting and good idea. I need to think about it for a minute.
Okay.
Just so you know, there is town ordinance that falls under the fire marshal that all buildings must have a visible address for obviously life safety issues. There are some freestanding signs that do have an address on them, some of the older ones, but yes, you're right, a lot of them don't.
Yeah, at my job, I'm always looking for addresses, and it's it's a major problem, and it definitely for the fire service and emergency services, not having an address available is takes away from the response.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Gill. Great questions. Any other questions from commissioners? Okay, we got, under communications, we all received the CROG letters. Is there any other, anything else, Renata?
No other communication, Mr.
No
Chair.
other communications? Okay, very good. Thank you. Any questions from commissioners? Without objection, we'll go to the next thing on the agenda is public participation for items not listed on the agenda. Speakers limited to 2 minutes. With Zoom application, you could raise your hand if you'd like to speak during public participation. If there's anybody from the public that would like to speak, Counselor Pedrejko.
Yes, I was wondering with Renata's thoughts about changing the public notices from the from the New Britain Herald to the Hartford Current. It's just, and maybe it's minimal or petty, but frankly, I feel the Hartford Current has abandoned Newington. There's very little coverage of Newington news anymore in the Hartford Current. And in fact, when you go to the online version, when you do the pull down menu under towns, Newington isn't even listed. There's Rocky Hill, Weathersfield, Windsor, East Hartford, whatever. But Newington has even dropped off the drop down list if you want to search for Newington news. But again, I feel the Current has done a poor job lately of reporting on Newington news. And if we're gonna, I don't know how much difference it is in terms of cost to the town of Newington, but I certainly would prefer to reward or award our business to a business that supports our town or is interested in our town. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it was substantial savings, but Renata can look into all that.
And just a side comment, it was twice. The difference in pricing was double
Right.
what New Britain was charging us. And the town council uses Hartford Current too. So frankly, for legal notices, I'm more upset that we are even required to issue these publications in the papers, because that is literally money wasted and thrown through the window, because almost nobody finds out that there is a meeting by the way of legal notice. People find it online, they find it by looking for it, by signs, that kind of thing. So if we are going to waste the money, my feeling is let's just waste less.
Mhm. Thank you, Renata. Commissioner Havens?
Yes, just this public notice in the papers. Is there a way to get information from both the New Britain Herald and the Hartford Current as to the number of subscribers in town? I understand it's trying to do a cost saving here, but if one has a substantially higher customer base in town versus the other one, that may be the one to go with, regardless of the cost, because you're going to reach possibly more people that way.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. We are under public participation, so I'm going to go to Ms. Lyons. She has her hand up. Go right ahead.
Hi, Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. Commissioner Havens asked the question that I was going to ask. I had a conversation, I believe, with the former town planner regarding the circulation of the New Britain Herald in Newington as opposed to the Hartford Current. I just recently stopped my delivery of the Hartford Current, and I would say that there's probably only 5 people on my street that get the Current, but I know of no one in Newington that has the New Britain Herald delivered. And quite honestly, I have to agree with Renata as well that, people aren't looking for that. And I don't know why they continue to require that. Having worked for a court, we had to put legal notices in the paper, and it's very expensive. And it wasn't the burden of the court, it was the burden of the person having to have the legal notice published. So I don't know. I have to go with the cheapest way to save some dollars here. Thank you. Take care, stay safe, and hopefully we'll get the wiring and whatever else needs to be done in the council chambers taken care of soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rose. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak? Anybody else from the public? We're going to go to remarks from commissioners. Is there any other remarks from the commissioners? Commissioner Sobieski?
You're muted, Stan.
Could we put the notices in the rare reminder? I mean, that gets to almost every house in Newington. I don't know if they charge that. I'm just curious.
I do not know. We can look into that. There are certain requirements with the number of subscribers or the subscribers that the newspaper reaches, period. That there are certain thresholds that possibly reminder will not be able to meet, but we can check into that.
Very good. Commissioner Fox?
No, never mind. It was taken care of. Thank you.
Yep. And Rose, you have another question? We are out of public, but I'll allow it.
Hi, Rose Lyons again, 46 Elton Drive. I have to just thank you for allowing me to speak a second time. Once again, having had worked with the court and having to put in legal notices, Renata will probably agree with me, there's a certain time frame in which these notices have to be put into the newspaper. And the rare reminder only comes out once a week, and sometimes it's not going to fall within the requirement by law of when the notices have to be printed. Just a comment from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other further commissioners have any questions or comments? Okay. Commissioner Sobieski, go right ahead.
Oh, no, I'm,
You're all set?
yes, I'm all set. Yeah, I accidentally got hit. I got to lower it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, very good. Is there any other questions? All right, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Fox. Do I have a second?
Second by Sobieski.
Seconded by Commissioner Sobieski. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody, very much, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you, James, and thank you, Eric, and thank you, Renata.
Thank you.
Stay
Good night.
safe, you all.
You're welcome.
I'll just say I love that idea about putting an address on temporary signs, because